Hi, I'm Eric Van Ask. We're here at our Editors' Days in Santa Clara. With me on the program now from Druva is Jaspreet Singh. Jaspreet, thanks for joining me. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So let's start talking a little bit about some of the things that are painful for your customers right now. What kinds of things are challenging for your customers?
It's a good question. So I think the customers which you see are highly mobile and distributed customers, enterprises, large enterprises. And they are investing into mobility and have a data which is flowing outside a data center. And they're challenged with the way of how do you manage this information, which is a new mobile and cloud information, outside a data center. And how do you protect it, how do you govern it, how do you manage it. And they look at providers like Druva to solve the whole problem of information protection and governance across a mobile enterprise.
Well, and certainly I think the aspect of mobility is impacting every company out there right now. Everybody's pretty much turning into an always-on, any network, any device kind of business.
Absolutely. I think it's a big trend and across the board, whether you are a Fed customer or if you're a pharma or a consulting company, right? Mobility and cloud are the biggest trends in probably our lifetimes. And they're impacting not just how you do your business, but how you also manage your information and what you do with it, right? How do you protect it? How do you manage it? So it's impacting almost every single workflow in an enterprise today. And where Druva comes into is an information protection management problem of this whole mobile and distributed data.
So when you're talking about information protection management, what are the kinds of things that you help your customers accomplish?
So today the data is getting more dispersed and diverse than ever, right? They're struggling with the fact of availability challenges. That what if my information in a remote, in a smaller data center or a mobile device or a laptop or a cloud service is unavailable? How do you solve a business continuity around it? And then even more compelling is a need for information visibility and governance. That how do you make sure if you have a litigation or a compliance reason, you would power or you would solve for those litigation or governance issues in this whole new mobile and cloud world. These are not necessarily new challenges. They are old challenges, but a completely new world. The world is changing from being core data center focused to be completely out there. And how do you still solve those sticky problems in this new bold world? And is what Druva does. So our job is to make sure information beyond data center is always collected, preserved, and able to discover it. Traditionally, people have built very siloed systems around just backup or archival or compliance or DR. There are multitude of ways you can structure your information governance strategy, but they've been very, very siloed in the past. So we converge them into a single system and solve it from the cloud up. So we build a pure cloud service to solve these siloed problems.
Are you talking about data that needs to be stored for record keeping, or data that needs to be regularly or constantly accessed as well?
Absolutely. So I think it's the challenge of availability and governance. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, they've been very siloed. We're trying to bridge them together. Traditionally, your availability, because your backup and recovery and archival has been a graveyard for data. You always stored something to be recovered one day, but did not solve for any other meaningful business process out of it. And then you had a time-critical governance challenge to solve completely separately. We're trying to, as you rightly said, this broad challenge of availability and governance and bridge them together in a pure cloud-based service called Converged Data Protection.
So who is the individual at the enterprise that you're targeting? Because you've got, as you said, you've got the two sides, the availability and the governance, and that, I imagine, tend to be two different individuals traditionally within the enterprise.
Traditionally, and even today, they are different. So it could be a GRC department, a risk department, compliance department, or a availability, mobility department, or backup department, who are usually different, and they don't actually talk to each other. But that's the whole process Druva is trying to build and solve, of saying we can actually solve this in the cloud. And actually, customers are by themselves also realizing the convergence. When you had to build software and hardware separately in terms of tapes and disks and the whole 9 yards, right? In the new iPhone world, they want convergence when stuff goes to cloud, and they want a workflow which is all integrated, and they look at Druva to see solving the whole workflow from just availability to all the way to governance.
Now, are you talking about setting up a separate data store than what enterprises set up for some of their other applications, or does it all funnel through you?
So you have to capture data in a Druva system once, which you call a backup, right,
okay,
from a servers or mobility. But once you capture it, the same data, in-place data, is deduplicated. So it's all unique, and then the golden copy can be used for multiple workloads, all different Xylo workloads. We work on a platform called hot, warm, and cold data, and how can you have instant access and long-term availability in a single price point. So some data you need instantly accessed, and some data you need to keep extremely long-term at a cost of a tape, all in the cloud, at a single price point, is what we have made it extremely simple and for customers to buy a single price point and deploy the whole thing.
How do customers define between those two types of data?
So customers define by the need. Customers define by identifying their processes and needs, and which set of data affects that process. So, for example, in a mobile workflow, we have two products, InSync and Phoenix. InSync for the mobile workload, and Phoenix for the servers and data centers. So, in InSync work, you have everybody in the organization who is deploying endpoints or deploying cloud services needs an availability service that you can buy from Druva, but certain individuals require a specific instant access, could be an exec staff, or even your legal department who need some data of a subset of individuals all the time for forensics needs. So you identify a need and then a set of custodians, define a subset of data you always need instantly to be accessed, and then majority of data to be preserved long-term for any compliance needs. And likewise for servers, you know your tier 1 application and tier 3 application, and some part of Druva's job is to also highlight those applications and those workflows and being able to then give a workflow which is instant need of a DR versus a long-term need of cold storage, purely from a cloud front.
How do you accommodate for rogue IT, different individuals or departments within an enterprise starting to use various potentially unsanctioned cloud services, for instance?
Good question. So we don't actually solve for that very well. Neither do we believe it can be solved for. So I think the shadow IT exists when there's lack of trust in the core IT to perform certain function, and line of business will always go out and buy services. So what we worry and think about, and there are players in the market who work on building visibility in terms of sanctioned and unsanctioned. Where we come in is that if you have something sanctioned, you want to provide a best of the service to the end users. So provide what best you can, and we'll enable the back-end process of availability and governance of what you want to offer in the market. So building integration with multiple cloud providers to cover laptop, mobile, and cloud data all in one single solution. So you can have a single pane of glass to whatever you may deploy.
Gotcha. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.